Good morning, students. Today I'm going to take a class on burns in children. Burns in children continues to be a major epidemiologic problem around the globe, and we see that mostly children less than 5 years are the commonly affected group. Today we're going to see about the anatomy of skin. We're going to see the causes of burns. I'll be listing to you about the severity of burns, the types of burns, and the extent of burns, and also about the pathophysiology, the complications of burns, and the management of burns. So before we start, let us see about the anatomy of skin. If you see the anatomy of the skin is the largest, you all know it is the largest organ, and it is a major organ for protection, secretions like sebum, it secretes sweat, and it is also a very protective organ. It is we are going to see the three layers of the skin. We have the epidermis, the dermis. The epidermis is the outermost layer. Dermis just lies below the epidermis, and you have the sweat glands and the sebaceous glands. As you see, it also has hair follicles, and below the dermis you have the subcutaneous tissue, which does not have blood vessels. And the fourth layer you have below the subcutaneous tissue is the muscles, and below that you have the bones. Now we are going to see what are burns and what are the causes for burns. What is a burn? What are burns? Burns are injuries to tissues caused by heat, friction, electricity, radiation, or chemicals. So they are injuries to tissues caused by any of these agents. We call it as burns. There are different causes of burns in children. Among that, the most common cause of burns among children less than 2 years is scalp burns. Scalp burns are burns caused due to moist heat, like for example hot liquids like milk, it could be water, it could be oil. Any of that are classified as scalp burns. The second one is flame injury. Example, mostly it occurs because of fires, because of cracker. Usually it occurs in children, older children. So these are the second one. The third one is electrical injury. This is also very common among the schoolers and adolescent children. Electrical injury could be because of electricity, electrical outlets, wrong use of it. So the next one is chemical injury. This is also commonly seen in older children. It could be because of any splash of chemicals onto their eyes, onto their skin. And the last one is radiation injury, where it could be because of so as you can see in the picture, radiation injury because of exposure to any radiations. It could be because of sunburns, it could be exposure to radiation, so for a long period of hours, any of this could cause radiation injury. Now coming on to the characteristic of burns. So I will be discussing about the depth of burns, the type of burns, the extent of burns, and severity of burns. So how we classify. So first we will see, the first one that we will see is depth of burns. So burns can be classified into 4 types. Based on the depth, we classify burns into 4 types. The first one is first degree burn, second degree burn, third degree burn, and the last one is the fourth degree burn. So first let me discuss the first degree burn. As you can see the picture of the anatomy of the skin, you can see first degree burns are those burns which are involving the epidermis. So as you can see, epidermis, as I told you, it is the outermost layer. Any of that, if this epidermis is lost, so if it involves epidermis, you call it as first degree burns. And if the burns involves the epidermis as well as the dermis, you call it as second degree burns. If the burns involves all three layers like the epidermis, dermis and the subcutaneous tissue, as you can see in the picture, then you call it as third degree burns. And the last one is, as you can see in this picture, even the muscles are involved. So here the epidermis, dermis, the subcutaneous tissue and the muscle layer is involved, then you call it as fourth degree. Now coming on to the severity of burns. Based on the severity, we classify burn injury into three types: minor, moderate and major. When do you call it as minor injury? Minor injuries are any injury which most of the children less than 16 years, they succumb to minor injuries which can be treated on an OPD basis. These children maybe just a slight, they would just maybe if they had just a hot water poured onto their hand, which just peels off the epidermis, it just requires an OPD basis where mild ointment or anything can be applied. That's called minor injury. The second one is a moderate burn injury, which requires treatment in the hospital with some expertise care. The third one is a major burn injury. This certainly requires hospitalization in a specialized tertiary care center or a burn center. So as you can see this tabular column which has the minor, moderate and major burn injury classification, we can see that there are two types: partial thickness and full thickness. We basically classify based on the total body surface area that is affected. Total body surface area is the percentage of area that is being burnt. So we classify as minor when the percentage or the total percentage of of burnt area is less than 10%. I will be discussing later in detail about this total body surface area and how to calculate it. Moderate is if it is between 10 to 20%, and major is more than 20%. Now this is the beautiful tabular column which describes, and this is used in children when they are admitted to identify the total burn surface area, total body surface area that is burnt. Now in children, if you see, as they grow, the burn surface area and the percentage, it differs according to the age group, because as they are small, their head is bigger than their body. So as you can see in the tabular column, each of the age group, it is different. So A, B, C, it determines A is for the head, B is one part of the thigh, C is one part of the lower leg. So we classify, if you see in the second picture, so you can see how it is for 0, 1, 5, 10 and 15 years. So you can see how the child has been classified. The other areas are already marked, it is standard, whereas the head, the thigh and the lower leg, these are the areas which grow as the child's age progresses. So that's the reason why it differs in each age group. So you can learn with that. Now for children older than 10 years, we use a chart called as Rule of 9. Less than 10 years, we use the London Browder chart. For children more than 10 years, we use the Rule of 9 for calculating the burn surface area. It's very easy, as you can see. Rule of 9 is nothing but 9 and multiples of 9. So head and neck, if it is affected, if the head and neck is burnt, you give a percentage of 9%. If each of the upper limb is affected, so you can give 9 into 2. If the upper limb and the lower limb of the hand is affected, you classify as 18%. That is 9 into 2. If the each quadrant of the trunk is affected, the front part and the back part, you classify, if it is the front part, it is 9 into 2 and the back part 9 into 2. So if both are affected, you have it 9 into 4. That is 36%. Each thigh we classify as 9 into 2%. That is the upper and the anterior part and the posterior part. The each leg and the foot we also classify 9 into 2. Then the genitals and perineum, it takes of 1%. So the total body surface area for children older than 10 years is for 100%. A little bit about introduction about inhalation injury. I mentioned about the other injuries like electrical, radiation, chemical and scald injury. Now we'll go on to inhalation injury. Any injury to the tracheobronchial tree, that could occur. For example, any injury like a child inhaling more of smoke. Maybe there's a fire and the child has inhaled more of smoke in a closed space, that could cause mucosal erythema and edema followed by sloughing of the mucosa, which manifests as respiratory injury. This is dangerous in children and has to be treated immediately. Now we'll go on to the pathophysiology. Children, any burnt injury, there are local skin responses that occurs. So if you see, there are 3 zones of local skin response. The first one is the zone of coagulation, the second one is the zone of stasis, and the third one is the zone of hyperemia. If you can see this picture, it clearly tells how from the outer layer to inner layer, you can see how the 3 zones being depicted. The first zone, as you can see, is the zone of if you can see the first zone, that is the zone of coagulation. It is the innermost layer, and here if you see this innermost layer, as you see, it is the nerves and the muscles and all the blood vessels are affected. Here when this layer is affected, mainly it occurs when the innermost layer, it occurs in 3rd degree and 4th degree burns, where the blood vessels are affected, there is cellular damage, tissue damage, there is no blood supply to this area, therefore the skin appears white or grey. The second layer is a zone of stasis, which is a middle layer. Here, immediately in response to the burn injury, there is temporary lack of blood supply, which occurs due to vasoconstriction of the blood vessels, and there is tissue damage here also in this phase. This third one is the zone of hyperemia, where there is no cellular damage. Here you find the skin looks red and blanched. Blanch is nothing but when you apply pressure and leave, you find the blood circulation appearing. Immediately the skin looks red and pink. So here the vascular damage is not there, so the blood supply is good here, and there is no cellular damage. So these are the 3 local skin response. Now we'll go on to the diagnostic evaluation. Any child, when they get admitted to the emergency service, immediately the complete blood counts are taken, blood test is done for electrolytes, blood urea nitrogen, specific urine gravity, serum protein will be done, serum albumin, if there's any 3rd degree or 4th degree burns, they do a serum albumin, globulin, ABGs are done. If there's any respiratory involvement, urine micro, x-rays to look for any pulmonary respiratory inhalation injury, they usually go in for an x-ray. Wound culture can be done on a 3rd or 5th day of burn injury, that would know whether there's any wound sepsis. Now we'll go on to the emergency management. Any child who is on a burn process, immediately you need to stop the burn process and protect the area. How do you do that? You do the stop, drop and roll technique. Immediately you try to bring the child out of the burn, out of that area, and try to you can make the child roll on to a blanket, and then you can transport the child to the hospital. Of course, family support is very important during transportation. Coming on to minor burns, as I already told, based on the severity, we can classify as minor, moderate and major. Minor burns are those with burn surface area less than 10%, which can be treated on an OPD basis with dressing and debridement. Any child, when they come with burns, TT injection, tetanus toxoid, has to be administered. Major burns, ABC is very important. ABC is airway, breathing and circulation. If the child is not responding and his airway is affected, immediately you need to look for breathing and pulse and start CPR. Pulmonary management, if the child presents with inhalation injury, assess the airway, look for any sooty tongue, look for any facial burns, look for the breathing, wheezing, look for any hoarseness. Immediately start the child on oxygen, take the blood for ABG, and if suppose the airway is not maintained, you can insert an endotracheal tube and shift the child. This child might require a ventilator and a critical care management. The second one important thing is fluid management. The major threat for a burn injury is hypovolemia. Hypovolemia is an important complication that can occur due to a burns. So IV therapy or fluid management is very important because these children can go into shock, because skin is a very important protective organ which retains and keeps the fluid inside. When the skin is lost, what happens is there's insensible heat loss and fluid loss. Therefore, IV therapy should be started immediately for children less than 2 years when they have a burn of more than total burn surface area of more than 15%. So hypoglycemia, how do we treat? Mainly for hypoglycemia, we have few formulas. The first one is the Brook formula. The second one is Parkland. But the most common formula that we use is the Parkland formula, which you can see, that is, we usually give Ringer lactate solution or normal saline, plain normal saline. For immediately we rush the fluid. So that can be given at a range of 4 ml per kg per percentage of total body surface area. Just remember this alone, 4 ml per kg per percentage of total body surface area. Now the next one that we will see is the gastrointestinal management. These children, we need gastrointestinal management involves these children usually have to be put on NPO for 24 to 48 hours. NG tube can be inserted for these children and they can be given some antacids because they develop a complication called curling ulcer because of increased hydrogen because of increased HCl secretion, they can develop curling ulcer. So therefore antacids can be given. Now coming on to the medications, as I already told you, we need to give injection TT, tetanus toxoid. If the child has received immunization within 3 years, then it might not be needed, but otherwise we need to give injection TT for all children. And penicillin or any other antibiotics can be started. And analgesics, because the skin is injured, they can have severe pain. Pain management is a very important thing. So we usually administer injection morphine 0.01 mg per kg immediately for pain management. Some of the important complications of burn injury are in pulmonary system. They can develop respiratory dysfunction. As I told, any inhalation injury, they can have respiratory distress or respiratory failure. They can have aspiration of gastric content because some children, they start coughing, which can cause aspiration of the stomach content in the respiratory tract. They can have bacterial pneumonia. They can have edema, pulmonary edema, which is also a complication in pulmonary insufficiency because of inadequate gas exchange, and emboli, pulmonary emboli, and hypoxia. Wound sepsis, 80% of them develop wound sepsis, which is a major complication. Most of these children, rather than dying of other complications, they develop sepsis and they die. So mainly the common organism causing wound sepsis is Pseudomonas aeruginosa. And gastrointestinal system, as I already told, because they put on NPO, they can have decreased peristaltic movement, which can lead to Gastric ileus, that means decreased peristaltic movement which leads to gastric ileus. Gastroduodenal erosion, they can have curling ulcer which can erode the gastrointestinal wall. Then the CNS, they can develop convulsions because of hypoxia leading to encephalopathy. Now the management of burn wound, there are 4 management. First one is primary excision. The primary excision is done by scraping of the skin and gentle dressing. Debridement is removing of all the debris, and that's debridement. Third one is topical antimicrobial agents, like usually the common antimicrobial agents used are we use Mega Heal, that is that's a drug used, and silver sulfur dioxide, that is a silver sulfur diazine, that is also a very good antimicrobial agent which is used. Eschorotomy is removal of dead tissue, that also is done at a later stage when they develop complications. Management is these children, because the skin is peeled off, they can feel very cold, so isolate them in a warm room. Prevent hypothermia, you can use hot oven in the room, so hot blowed oven or hot blowed air, so that the child feels warm. See that you close the windows. Reduce the risk of infection by using hand washing techniques. See that when you prevent infection by teaching the mother also, by reducing visitors in the room. Isolate the child, and follow aseptic techniques by providing clean sheets for the child, and see that you monitor vital signs for the child. That's very essential, because child can have hypothermia and can go into shock. Monitor the blood pressure, look for signs of infection, therefore monitor the temperature, look for any respiratory complications, looking for respiratory rate and pulse, because they can develop shock. Then maintenance of adequate airway, this you can look by monitoring the respiratory rate, looking for any abnormal breath sounds or any hoarseness, any other wheeze. An adequate pain management is another important thing. See that you administer adequate analgesics, opioid analgesics, before doing dressing, because child can have severe pain. Maintain fluid and electrolyte balance. Monitor for signs of shock. Look for any electrolyte imbalances. We monitor for the serum electrolytes, and as I already told, fluid management is a very essential management, so we need to administer fluid according to the protocol.